cannot explain the feeling to hear Cold Blue and it be your child's room. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jasmine. Today's video is basically a story time of my oldest daughter, like basically her birth story and her time spent in the hospital. So for those of you who don't know, my daughter does have special needs, and I'll go into everything that happened and all of that. So let's just jump right on in. I have tried to record this video so many times. I feel the lumps in my throat already. So just bear with me, y'all. So we'll start with me finding out, I was pregnant. So every year, my boyfriend and we go to the beach for his birthday, which is in March. So we go to the beach and spend like a few days at the beach with his family. And this time it was a bunch of us there. And I just remember feeling really weird. Like normally I would, that was my time to, drink and have fun, but I didn't want to drink. Like it was weird. I didn't want to drink. I just wanted to stay in the room. Like my boobs were super, super tender, and it was just weird. But I didn't think anything of it. So we come home from the trip, and I took a pregnancy test just for the heck of it, because my boobs are so tender, and like that never really happened to me. Even around like my cycle time, I know some people get tender boobs then, but that was not a symptom of mine. So, and my cycle was already irregular, so I was waiting for it to come on, but of course it never did. So we took a test and it was positive, and I was elated. My man was happy. Like it was just, we were on like cloud 9. So we progressed into the pregnancy. Everything was normal, like nothing was wrong. And then once I got into like the weeks of the 20s, I can't remember what week specifically, but they noticed I had a lot more amniotic fluid than I should have. So they referred me to maternal fetal medicine. And my mother-in-law went with me to that appointment, and they basically told me that Winnie did not have a stomach bubble. So she could possibly, I'm trying to hold it together, y'all. But they basically told me that there was something going on with her swallow. Because if I'm not mistaken, she was supposed to like digest like some of the amniotic fluid or something like that, but she was not doing that, and you could not see her stomach bubble on the ultrasound. So they basically explained to me that this excessive amniotic fluid could also make me go into preterm labor. So I was just kind of oblivious. I'm like, God gonna work it out. It's gonna be fine, and my baby's gonna be fine. And I was just praying that God fixed it. I felt that in my heart. So fast forward to about week it was the end of 32 into 33. Yeah. My man had went to work one day. He was working like overnight, and he had just left for work, and I was laying around our apartment at the time, and I had not felt her move in a while. So I'm like, and that was really rare. Like Winnie would be kicking and, you know, doing all kind of stuff. She was very, very active. So that kind of alarmed me. And it was like afternoon-ish. So I called my doctor and I was like, hey, I haven't felt the baby move in a while. What should I do? So they told me to drink a soda, a sugary drink, and just lay down for a while, and then call us back if, you know, you still don't feel anything. So a few hours went by, and I'm like, I still don't feel her moving. So they told me to come into the office. So they monitored me at the office for a little while. And during that monitoring, I was contracting. So they basically told me that I needed to go to the hospital so they could further monitor me. And I'm like, okay, it's not time. You know, I'm just in my head, it's not time. I'm just going to go get monitored, and I'm going to come back home and everything going to be okay. So I'm communicating with my man, telling him, you know, what's going on. I got to go to the hospital now. And I get to the hospital. They set me up in a room, put me on the monitors, monitor the baby, monitor me. So hours go by, and they're just like, you know, we still monitoring. And the contractions had kind of stopped. I think they gave me something, if I'm not mistaken. They gave me something for it to stop. Yeah. And then like 5 or 6 hours after that, they came back. So they put me in a room. My man had gotten to me at this point. Like, he was there at the hospital with me. And they would come in and, you know, talk to me every, you know, couple of hours or whatever. And then at one point, like, a doctor came in and he was like, you ready to have the baby? And I was like, what? Like, no, what do you mean? So he came in and he basically told me that the baby's heart rate is dropping each time you contract. And he's worried that, you know, basically she's in the danger zone at this point. And they needed to do an emergency C-section on me to get her out. Just to go back a little bit, so when I went to the maternal fetal medicine doctor, they did tell me that she would need respiratory assistance as soon as she came out. As soon as I delivered her. So I knew that was going to be the case. And when he told me that, and I agreed, of course I agreed to it because I didn't want my baby to suffer, you know what I'm saying? So after I agreed, nurses flooded the room, okay? Like, they came in, and I was not even ready for labor and delivery, y'all. Like, I didn't get to shave down there. Like, it was just it was a lot. So the nurse came in and she literally shaved me down there, well, close to where the incision mark was. She didn't shave the whole thing, but yeah. So the anesthesiologist comes in and he's talking to me and telling me A, B, C, D. And I'm just like, my head is spinning because everything is happening so fast. My man is trying to call our parents, telling them, hey, we about to have a baby. And this is 33 weeks. I'm 33 weeks pregnant. So I just have a million things rushing through my head. I'm scared. Like, I'm crying. It was just a lot. It was a lot. So, they get us all prepped for the surgery room, and I get in there and they put me on the table. And when I tell you, y'all, I almost freaked out. It was time for me to get my spinal. So the nurse was like, hold on to me, try not to move. It was so cold in there, like I was shaking, y'all. It was so cold. So they did the spinal, and they didn't let my man come in yet. He wasn't in there yet, but they laid me on the table and then they stretched my arms out on this thing, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, for my first time being pregnant and being in labor and delivery, it was traumatic AF. They laid me down, stretched my arms out, and a few minutes later, all the doctors and nurses were prepping everything, and my man was sitting next to me, and I just felt like I had it to throw up. Like, I was like, okay, I'm about to throw up. Like, it happened that quick. And my man is not, his stomach is weak, okay? So he was like, you about to throw up now? And I'm like, yeah, I'm about to throw up. So they gave him a pan to hold so I could vomit into the pan. And when I tell y'all, he had to turn his head. But I got that out the way. And then they started the surgery to get Winnie out. I don't know how long it went on, but they told me they were going to tell me when she was out, because she was not going to cry because she needed respiratory assistance. So they told me that she was out, she's here, and they immediately took her out of the room. And my man was able to go back to wherever they took her. To see her initially, I had to get stitched up, so I couldn't really move, but they did wheel her into the OR in the incubator. I think that's what it's called. And just seeing her for the first time, even though she had tubes coming out of her, like, it was just the most beautiful sight I had ever seen in my life, y'all. I'm sorry. But yeah, so they took her, because the hospital I delivered at was right next to the children's hospital. So they took her to the children's hospital, the NICU, where they could, take care of her. And I went to the regular recovery room, the labor and delivery recovery room in the hospital I was at. But it was just a wheelchair ride to get to her. So a few days, I did go get to see her. It was just, I just couldn't really walk the first day or so, because it hurt so bad. The C-section hurt so bad after that medicine wore off. So it was about day 2. We went to go see her in the NICU, and I got to meet her very first nurse, and we are still friends to this day. She's a twin, and eventually her twin also became Winnie's nurse. They kind of rotate for anybody that knows, nurses rotate in the NICU. But at the children's hospital Winnie was at, we could request nurses. It was up to the charge nurse to grant that request, but mostly all the nurses I pretty much came in contact were great. They loved Winnie so much. But the twins, we had an instant connection to them. So, and they just don't know how much they calmed my nerves, wiped my tears. It was a lot. So basically, she got moved to the NICU, and I finally got discharged from the hospital. So of course, every day I was going to the NICU. And so Winnie was born on October 21st, 2018. And her first surgery was on the 25th of October. And I'll be inserting pictures so you guys can pretty much see what was going on at that time. Her first surgery was October 25th, 2018. So she was basically diagnosed with esophageal atresia and tracheoesophageal fistula. So her esophagus was separated into 2 pieces, and then her trachea was attached, connected to her esophagus, and that's not supposed to be. They're supposed to be two different entities. So she basically had, like, the top part of her esophagus was a pouch, and I'll try to insert a picture. She had a little pouch at the bottom of that top piece, and then the bottom piece was just there, and her trachea was attached to that bottom piece. So she had the surgery to correct that, but she had a long gap in between the two. So basically, she was so small, and they tried to stretch it a little bit too far. So she had, like, little tears in it. So the first surgery did not work. So they wanted to wait until she got a little bit bigger. So basically she could not eat by mouth. So she's always pretty much had a feeding tube. So February 7th, she had her neck surgery. They had to go in on her right side to get to that area of her esophagus because her body was so tiny. And she still has the scars to this day. I'll try to show y'all in a picture or something. But she had the neck surgery February 7th of 2019. And they tried the same thing. They tried to stretch her esophagus to connect the 2 points. And that surgery also failed. Now, in between this time, it wasn't even a full month yet, but after this second surgery, I remember I was still working full time, and I remember I was on maternity leave at this point, but I remember going there. I was going every day, and I remember going to see her that day. It was after the February 7th surgery. They had, like, a lounge where they had, like, TVs and where parents can, parents that stay, they could put their food in the refrigerator. They had, like, a coffee, like a Keurig, like, setup where you could get coffee, hot chocolate. And I wasn't a coffee drinker back then, but I did love the hot chocolate that they had. So I stepped out of the room to go get some hot chocolate. So, in the hospital they have the intercom system, and I just remember hearing Cold Blue. And for those of you that don't know, Cold Blue is not good. So I hear Cold Blue, and then I hear my daughter's room number. They called it over the intercom. So I'm like, what? So I rushed out of the lounge. I'm sorry, y'all. I rushed out of the lounge, and I see it's like I felt like every doctor in that hospital was in my daughter's room. And I just remember the twins, my favorite nurses. I just remember them coming to stop me from going in there. And I cannot explain the feeling to hear Cold Blue and it be your child's room. I can't explain it. I can't explain it. It was terrifying. They wouldn't let me go in. So basically what happened, she did kind of stop breathing for a while. But I later found out she was what is it called? Intubated. She was intubated, and she had a breathing tube in, and that breathing tube kind of shifted. It caused everything to just stop. So they got her back together, and I finally calmed down. And I just thank God for keeping my child here, because there were times throughout that year hospital stay that she was in there, death was all around her. I mean, it would be the rooms next to her. You know what I'm saying? Like, rooms right next to her, children passing away in the next room. And the Lord spared my child. So I'm forever grateful for that. So yeah. That's that. So she kind of healed. She healed from that surgery February 7th. And we were able to go home. I'm looking down at my notes, y'all. So we were able to go home March 29th of 2019. And I'm going to insert pictures, but we were able to go home. And the feeling of having your child at home with you. She was on oxygen. She still, had her feeding tube. She was on continuous feeds at that point, meaning she could not, she was always eating. You always have the feeding tube attached to you. So yeah, we were on oxygen. We were carrying around oxygen tanks, and we had a big, I can't even remember what the name of that machine was, but it was a home oxygen machine. And she was also on the machine that would monitor like her breathing. We had that machine. So we had so many machines here. Our room, our small apartment bedroom turned into basically a hospital room. But I did not care. I had my baby home with me. And before we got home, they basically told us that she could not go to any type of daycare because she was too medically fragile. Everything was going good. All her grandparents, they were coming. Everybody was coming to see her at home. And then it was a little less than 2 weeks later, my boyfriend had set up the grill, and he was like grilling outside. And I noticed that Winnie had, she was a lot more, I say juicy, but she was already she would slobber a lot, but this time it was bubbles, and they told me to look out for that. I just felt in my soul something wasn't right. So we went back to the doctor, and they ran tests on her. They checked her esophagus, and it had closed off again. So that was in April, the beginning of April. So we went back mid-April. Yeah. We went back to the hospital, and she was admitted again. We went back. It was around Easter time. I remember I dressed her in her little Easter outfit. So, the dress, I'll insert a picture. She got that little dress from our baby shower we had after we had her. I didn't even mention that, but yeah. So she spent up until October. October the 16th, she had her last surgery that got us discharged for a second time. So she had that surgery on the 16th of October. Of course, her birthday is on the 21st. So she was still recovering. And spent her first birthday in the hospital. I'll insert pictures also. We sang happy birthday to her. And she loved it. She spent Halloween in the hospital also. She was a piñata. They dressed her up as a piñata for Halloween. And on November 22nd, 2019, she got discharged from the hospital. And she came home. She was not on oxygen. Her esophagus was actually corrected, and we went home. And we've been there ever since. So that's pretty much her year hospital stay, give or take. It was a little bit over a year. So yeah. And updates on her today. We went through so many therapy sessions, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and we just currently went to speech. She was able to eat by mouth once we got discharged from the hospital for a little while, until she had her first swallow study. Well, not her first, but she had some in the hospital, but she had a swallow study and they determined that she was aspirating. So her swallow was not strong enough for it to go directly down her esophagus. Some of it was going to her lungs, which is aspiration. So they stopped her from eating by mouth. And we just had our follow-ups here at the hospital. And she was fully eating everything by G-tube. She was fully dependent on G-tube. And we actually went for genetic testing. One day they reached out to us and wanted to do like genetic testing on us to figure out why the trachea, esophageal fistula, and esophageal atresia happened to her. So they did that, and she was diagnosed with Charge syndrome during that genetics test. And basically, Charge syndrome is where, and I'm looking at my notes because I don't want to get anything wrong, but her CHD7 gene was unique, and that determined that Charge syndrome. And basically, Charge is an acronym for, the C is for coloboma, and my daughter does have colobomas of the eyes, and that's where like a keyhole slit is in her eye. It looks kind of like a teardrop. And then H, the H in Charge is heart defect. And she did have a heart defect. She had a small hole in her heart, but it's been corrected. She no longer sees a cardiologist for that, thank God. And then the A is atresia canae. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but it's basically the passages around the nose and sinuses. They're kind of fused together. And one side of Winnie's nose, her nostril is a lot tighter than the other. So she does have that. And then the R is restricted growth or development. She does not have that. G is genital underdevelopment. She doesn't have that. And then E is ear abnormalities and hearing issues. She does not have any hearing issues. She did have tubes placed in her ears, but she can hear fine. And her ears, one is a little bit smaller than the other. And with Charge kids, that's an indicator. Like one ear is up higher and the other is down, but you can't really tell with Winnie. It's just a slight difference in the size of her ears. And that's it. And that E part, basically, that's what I said. Kids with Charge have that ear abnormality. They did tell us at that genetic testing that she will have like very mild development issues, but they'll get better over time, and that has proved to be 100% correct. Well, neither one of us had like the gene to pass this to her. So Winnie does have a 50-50 chance of her children getting Charge syndrome if she does decide to have kids. So that's the only like downside to it, but we have been navigating really well with the Charge syndrome. She did get glasses. Of course, y'all know she got glasses for her eyes. And she does have like that wandering eye, but that is getting a lot better as well, per her eye doctor. So that's good about that. She does patch every day for at least 30 minutes a day. We do patch her eye. So yeah, that is pretty much the gist of it. With her eating right now, she can eat like thick consistency things, so like pudding, Greek yogurt, mashed potatoes, mashed avocado, mashed sweet potatoes, something that's very thick and ploppable she can eat. She can also, we've also been working on chewing like the meltable things like veggie straws, graham crackers, vanilla wafers, Teddy Grahams, cheese puffs. So those meltable things, she loves to eat those things. So that's where we are right now. She was kind of put on pause from speech, which is feeding therapy. So we will pick that back up at some point once she gets the chewing down pat, because it's so new to her and she's still trying to grasp the concept of chewing. We'll start going back to feeding therapy. Physical therapy, she was also discharged from physical therapy because she's at a wonderful place right now. She does wear braces, AFOs on her legs, and those have been helping her out tremendously getting from point A to point B. We did at one point, we got a wheelchair, y'all. She was using a walker, gait trainer. She no longer needs any of those things. So yeah, she has just been taking off, and I'm so grateful to God that he kept my baby in that hospital 4 years ago, a little bit over 4 years ago, when she coded and I thought I was gonna lose my child. God kept her here and he's been strengthening her ever since. And the one thing that I've learned out of this whole situation, because I used to wonder, why would God let my baby stay in this hospital for a year and I want her home with me? It taught me patience. It strengthened my faith. It taught me, why not me? You know, so my girl took those surgeries like a G. Okay, she was the happiest baby. She's still the happiest child now. So if y'all are going through something similar, your child is in the hospital and it's dark for you right now, just know that God is with you. God is with you. He will never leave you. He will put people in your path to help you, and that's what happened to us. So just hold on, y'all. And if you have any questions about Winnie, you can put them down in the description box below, and I will be happy, in the comment section below, and I will be happy to answer those questions for you. So yeah, I'm gonna end it right here, y'all, and I will put, there's a CHARGE syndrome website. If you want to know more, I will also put that down in the description box below. And I thank you guys for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye.